Welcome, curious minds, to the Urban Herald. As part of the team here, we're always digging into the big issues shaping our cities. And today, we're doing a real deep dive into something that, well, it affects all of us: facial recognition privacy.
Indeed. We've gathered a lot of information, pulling heavily from our own analysis here at the Urban Herald. We're looking especially at, the rise of things like anti-facial recognition masks and uh, other privacy tech.
That's right. So, our goal today is really to cut through the noise, give you a clear, informed view on why people are resorting to some pretty extraordinary measures to protect their anonymity. In this increasingly watched world, you'll definitely uncover some surprising facts and maybe have a few aha moments along the way.
We'll start by unpacking how facial recognition technology actually works. It's quite sophisticated. Then we'll look at its spread across the globe and, maybe most importantly, dive into the countermeasures, these innovative ways people are trying to protect their privacy.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Are these anti-facial recognition masks, are they really the future? The way we protect ourselves digitally. But first, to really get the countermeasures, we need to understand the scale of the surveillance itself, right? So what is facial recognition technology, like at its most basic level?
Well, at its core, it's about collecting biometric data and then analyzing it with algorithms. The system grabs an image of a face and converts unique features, the distance between your eyes, shape of your nose bridge, cheekbones, that sort of thing, into what's called a face print. It's essentially a mathematical map of your face, dozens of identifiers.
So not just a picture, but a unique digital code for your face. And unlike a password, you can't just change your face print if it gets breached. That permanence is, well, it's a big deal, isn't it?
Precisely. And it relies on deep learning algorithms. These things are trained on millions and millions of images to spot patterns. Modern systems are incredibly fast. They can process thousands of faces a second, compare them against huge databases, and they're getting remarkably accurate.
Right, and here's where it really hits home for you listening. That accuracy, it's impressive, sure, but it comes at a cost. Many see it as, chipping away at our anonymity in public. And the market itself. Facial recognition is projected to be worth, what, $8.5 billion in 2025? This isn't some niche tech anymore, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture, you see this massive global build-out of surveillance infrastructure. Take China, for example. It's baked into their social credit system. Researchers call it surveillance state capitalism,
Mm.
basically logging and analyzing almost every public move people make. Imagine getting points docked for, I don't know, jaywalking, affecting loans, or travel.
That's quite a vision. What about elsewhere? Is it just China?
Oh no, the UK, for instance, has really embraced live facial recognition. The Met Police reported over 1,000 arrests using it in 2024 alone, including 93 registered sex offenders. The UK government's even put 20 million towards a national police framework for it. Then in the US, you've got the Department of Homeland Security using it at borders. But, and this is key, the Civil Rights Commission points out there's a real lack of rules. No federal laws specifically regulating government use, which naturally ramps up privacy concerns about your biometric data.
Okay, so this leads us right into the privacy dilemma.
Yeah.
With this scale of surveillance you're describing, what does it actually mean for our everyday lives?
Well, it fundamentally changes what we used to call privacy in public. The basic idea that you could move through public spaces without being constantly identified, tracked, that idea. It's fading fast.
So it's not just about IDing you, knowing who you are. It's about tracking where you go, what you do over time.
Exactly. These systems track people across different locations. They build up detailed profiles, your routines, who you associate with, even patterns in your behavior. This feeds into what's called surveillance capitalism, where your behavior, your life patterns become a product. And that definitely raises big questions about your biometric data rights.
And okay, beyond just privacy, what about the impact on, say, democratic values? Sources talk about a chilling effect. What does that mean practically?
It's a really important point. When people know they're being watched, constantly identified, they're just less likely to do things that might be seen as dissent, or even just participate in a protest. Research shows this clearly. People change their behavior, even if they're not breaking any laws. And that subtly undermines things like freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. It changes public spaces from places of freedom into, well, zones of control.
Yeah, that's unsettling, the idea that you start self-censoring without even realizing it. So, okay, with all this surveillance happening, it kind of makes sense that people are pushing back. What are these anti-facial recognition masks and technologies we're starting to see?
They're often grassroots efforts, really. coming from artists, tech folks, privacy advocates. They signal a sort of cultural shift,
Yeah.
Individuals actively trying to hold on to their anonymity, protect their biometric data.
Let's get into some specifics we found in our research. First one sounds pretty dramatic. CV Dazzle.
Right, CV Dazzle. It's the brainchild of artist Adam Harvey. It uses really bold, asymmetric makeup patterns. The whole point is to confuse the algorithms. It's actually inspired by naval camouflage from World War I, dazzle camouflage. It works by disrupting the key features algorithms look for, like the nose bridge or the symmetry around the eyes.
It sounds incredibly creative, almost like performance art. But does it actually work, especially against the newer systems?
Well, it's definitely a powerful artistic statement, but its practical effectiveness against modern AI. It has limits. The original techniques were aimed at older algorithms. And, kind of ironically, the look is so striking it makes you stand out to humans, which might defeat the purpose if you're trying to blend in.
Okay, fair enough. So maybe it's something a bit more low-key. What about infrared technology?
Ah, yes. That's a more, let's say, technically sophisticated approach. Infrared glasses, or other accessories, they emit light. It's invisible to our eyes, but it effectively blinds or confuses the infrared cameras that many facial recognition systems rely on. There are actually companies now like Reflecticals and privacy glasses selling these, so infrared glasses are a real product you can buy.
It's really interesting how fashion or accessories anyway can become part of this tech arms race.
It is, and then you get into even more advanced stuff like digital masks. The Chameleon Project is a great example here.
Right, this one sounds like a potential game changer because it's invisible, right? How does that work? How can it be invisible to us but still fool the AI?
Absolutely. So this came out of Georgia Tech. Chameleon creates these AI-generated, personalized patterns. Think of them as digital masks that get applied directly to your photos. But here's the clever part. They're designed so humans can't see them. The photo looks normal to you. But they contain signals that make facial recognition systems misidentify the person in the photo. Think it's someone else entirely. You could even have software apply them automatically before you upload pictures online. So, protection against online scraping, without changing how your photos look to friends.
So, okay, technically speaking, how are these things actually tricking the AI? What's the mechanism?
A lot of it comes down to exploiting something called adversarial examples. These are inputs images, in this case, that are very carefully tweaked. They have tiny changes, perturbations, that are usually completely invisible to human eyes. But these tiny changes cause the AI to make big mistakes. Its accuracy just plummets. It kind of reveals a hidden weakness in how some AI sees.
And we can sort of group these countermeasures into two main types, right? Physical versus digital.
Yes, exactly. And each type has its own pros and cons for you to think about. Physical approaches, that's your masks, the CV Dazzle makeup, wearables like the infrared glasses, they work in the real world, face-to-face with cameras, but they're often very noticeable. They can draw attention, which might not be what you want.
Right. And the other type.
Digital approaches.
Yeah.
These are focused on protecting your images online, your digital self, like the Chameleon Project masks. They can be totally invisible to other people looking at your photos. But, and this is the limitation, they only protect you online. They don't do anything about a camera identifying you on the street.
Got it. Okay, for listeners who like the nitty-gritty, here's a quick rundown from our research comparing some of these. We looked at effectiveness, but also how obvious they are to other people. CV Dazzle makeup, it's cosmetic. Effectiveness, medium. Human detectability, high. Cost, low. Infrared glasses, wearable. Effectiveness, pretty high. Human detectability, low. Cost, medium. Adversarial patches, these are often digital. High effectiveness, low detectability, low cost. Physical masks, like pattern fabric ones. Physical, high effectiveness, but very high detectability, low cost. Digital masks, Chameleon. Digital, high effectiveness, detectability, none. Cost, low. Infrared LED accessories, like hats or clips. Wearable, high effectiveness, low detectability, but higher cost.
What's really fascinating, though, is that even with all this innovation, their real-world performance isn't always guaranteed. These surveillance systems, they're getting smarter all the time, too.
So they're not exactly foolproof yet. A magic invisibility cloak?
Not quite. I mean, some tests showed custom fabric masks could drop recognition rates down to just 3%. That's impressive. But other government tests found that the best systems could still identify up to 96% of people wearing masks. Plus, things like bad lighting or the quality of the camera, that all makes a big difference, too.
It really does sound like this constant back and forth, cat and mouse game.
It absolutely feels like that. Anti-facial recognition tech gets better, then the surveillance tech evolves to beat it. It's this continuous cycle of innovation and counter-innovation.
So looking down the road, what does this arms race really mean for our privacy? For your privacy?
Well, the money involved tells a story. That global biometric market hitting over $150 billion by 2030, growing over 20% a year. That suggests these systems are only going to become more common, more powerful, and governments are clearly investing heavily. We mentioned the UK's 20 million, China's ongoing expansion. They're definitely scaling up surveillance.
But on the other hand, the counter-surveillance side is also innovating fast, you'd say.
Absolutely. There's a lot of research happening in adversarial machine learning, privacy-preserving tech, driven by universities, advocacy groups. Things like Chameleon show that really sophisticated privacy tools could be developed, maybe even integrated into the devices you use every day.
And what about the law? Are regulators stepping in? What should listeners know about that?
The legal side is trying to catch up, but it's moving fast and it's complicated. You've got the EU's AI Act. It's a huge piece of legislation. It aims to ban most public uses of live facial recognition, though, importantly, there are often exceptions carved out for law enforcement. In the U.S., it's more piecemeal. Different states, different cities are putting restrictions in place. But the big question is, how effective will these rules actually be at protecting your biometric data rights? We saw that recent fine in Ireland, €550,000 for unlawful use of biometric data. That shows there's some teeth, some increased scrutiny, but it's still evolving.
And it's important to remember, right, as we analyze this for you, facial recognition is just one tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. It's just one piece of a much bigger surveillance picture. That picture includes your location data from your phone, data mining of your online activity, social media monitoring, analyzing your behavior patterns. So even if you block facial recognition perfectly, it might not be enough for total privacy.
Which brings us to this fundamental challenge of the digital footprint that, frankly, affects everyone listening.
Yeah, every single thing you do online leaves a trace. Social media posts, searches, where your phone says you are, what you buy. Even if facial recognition wasn't in the picture, other surveillance methods could still track and profile you in great detail. The real challenge isn't just blocking one technology, it's protecting your privacy holistically.
So thinking practically, beyond these specific masks or digital tricks, what can you do right now? What steps can individuals take?
Well, there are definitely practical things. You can really dig into the privacy settings on your social media, on all your online services, use browsers and search engines that are designed with privacy first. DuckDuckGo, Brave, things like that. Using a VPN service can help mask your online tracks. And just generally being more mindful, more conscious about what data you're sharing online. Plus, supporting organizations and legislation pushing for stronger privacy rules, stronger biometric data rights, that makes a difference too.
At the end of the day, this whole deep dive, it really circles back to a fundamental question for society, doesn't it? Do we, as individuals, actually have a right to privacy in this digital age? Or is that becoming an outdated idea?
It's a core question. That right is recognized in many human rights frameworks,
Yeah.
but it's definitely being challenged by all this surveillance tech. You could see these anti-facial recognition technologies as a kind of technological assertion of that right, a statement that individuals should control their own data, their own biometrics.
Of course, the counterargument is always security, right? Proponents talk about the benefits for catching criminals, preventing terrorism. How do we strike that balance, security versus privacy?
That balance is incredibly tricky, because the security benefits often seem very clear, very immediate. Find the suspect, stop the threat. The privacy costs, though, they're often more subtle, more long-term, harder to quantify. These counter technologies, they offer tools, maybe, to push that balance back a bit towards the privacy side of the scale.
And finally, thinking bigger picture. What are the implications here for our civil liberties, for democracy itself?
Well, we touched on the chilling effect. When people feel constantly watched, they might hesitate. Hesitate to join a protest, hesitate to express unpopular views online, hesitate to associate with certain groups. These are all activities vital to a healthy democracy. Anti-facial recognition tech offers one potential way to push back, to restore a bit of that anonymity needed for free expression. But its real impact depends on whether it's accessible, easy to use, and crucially, legally protected. That's why those debates around things like the AI Act are so important.
Wow, what a complex journey into facial recognition and this whole fight for digital anonymity. It's really clear that the technology itself and these countermeasures like the masks, they represent this deep tension in modern life.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing technological arms race, and it's likely going to shape the future of privacy for years to come. And while things like infrared glasses or digital masks offer important tools for individuals, they're really symptoms, aren't they? Symptoms of a much broader struggle for autonomy in the digital world.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Here at the Urban Herald, we think the really interesting question isn't just, are masks the future of privacy? Maybe the bigger question is, can we build a society where you don't need these kinds of measures in the first place?
And achieving that, it takes more than just clever tech. It needs strong laws, ethical behavior from companies using this data, and really a shared commitment from all of us to protect fundamental human rights online, especially our biometric rights.
Yeah, this fight for facial recognition privacy, it's really a fight for the kind of world we want to live in. One where technology actually helps people flourish, where privacy isn't seen as an obstacle, and where you retain control over your own information.
And that's definitely something to keep thinking about long after you finish listening. What kind of society do you want? And what role should this powerful technology play in it?
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive here at the Urban Herald. We really hope this gave you some fresh insights and plenty to mull over. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.